Thank you for inviting for this webinar. It is a good interaction with all the people and all. And what I want to talk about is, okay, with this COVID-19, it's actually an unprecedented pandemic. Maybe mankind first time it is seeing such a pandemic and lockdowns and other things in a short period. So during this one, once the WHO has announced the pandemic and all, several companies they started they jumped into this vaccine development. There are probably now 130 or so candidate vaccines that are being developed by different companies, and the Indian some of the Indian companies also started their work, and now hopefully we will be getting a few of them into the market. And we are looking at actually, the race is between the virus spread and how fast we are going to bring the vaccine. The race is not between the companies. There is no race between the companies, no competition between the companies. There is several myths. The what we have space for more number of companies. I am looking at least 50 companies should start producing this vaccine, not 1-2 companies, to cater the requirement of the worldwide this one. So what we will do is different platforms. The important thing is, unlike any other vaccine, in a short period, different platforms are being targeted by different companies, different institutions to develop a suitable vaccine for this. And probably at the end of this one, there could a few new technologies may come out, or some of the technologies which we are thinking may go fade out also. And let us see what are these technologies that are there, and what are the plus minus points and what we can see and all. Those things we will be discussing. I am involved in I am proud to be involved in this Bharat Biotech's COVID vaccine development. Maybe I can't, I may be talking little bit more about Bharat Biotech. If I am little bit biased, please forgive me. And I will try to keep everything balanced, but I can't help because I worked with in one particular this one. Probably a little bit bias may be there, but if it is there, you just forgive me. And let us move to the next. Basically, what I do is, it is blocking my. Okay. Are you able to see the slide properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Basically, what I do is, what is our target for most of the vaccines? When we develop vaccines, generally a protein or something will be targeted. And what is the general target for the most of the companies? And what is happening is almost everybody is targeting a single protein at different stages. This one. See, you see this COVID virus, or in general a coronavirus. This coronavirus, it has a protein outside this one. This is called S protein. Most of the people are targeting this protein, either a full length S or part of that one. You can see this one in the S protein. You have this head-like thing. That is what is called S1. Whereas this part is called S2. Whereas this part is which is in the membrane, transmembrane domain and all. So if you see the difference between this COVID-19 and the earlier SARS coronavirus, this S1 region is almost common, whereas this S2 region is almost common, whereas this S1 is different in among these coronaviruses or the related viruses are related to COVID-19. So for most of the people, the target is either this S1 or a complete this one. So with this, I will move to the next slide. I am not going to talk about most of the structure and all. I will go to the next slide and see what all the different companies people, different targets people are having. If you see this one, the most of the biggest out of that 130 or so, more than 50 people are targeting the subunit vaccine or a VLP. That means the S protein forming as a virus-like particle or a subunit. And the next target is surprisingly RNA. RNA, up to now, there is no vaccine coming from RNA-based vaccines in the market. But surprisingly, 30% of the people, they are trying RNA. And it's a new technology, and it is an untested technology up to now. And I am hopeful this may change if it works. This RNA vaccine works. It may change whole scenario in the vaccine production. And there is one particular company, Moderna. They are already in the clinical trials in US, and the data is not out. We cannot comment on the data, whatever the data they have. It is not yet published, and we let us see what happens to this one. We are also crossed our fingers and looking at what may happen. Then the next target is based upon the adenoviruses. Basically, adenoviruses and among the adenoviruses also the major target is using the human adenoviruses. Human adenovirus 5. So we will discuss about that, and it is basically a vectored virus. S gene is cloned into adenovirus genome, and the virus will be used as a vector or a vehicle to deliver its DNA into the cells, infected cells, and the cells will produce the protein. That's what is this one here. And the next target is not surprisingly DNA vaccine. Up to now, there are some DNA vaccines available for veterinary field, but not for the human vaccines. And yeah, this may decide the fate of DNA vaccines in future. This COVID, this one. And not surprisingly, there are 10 candidates, 10 companies that are working on inactivated vaccines. Yes, Bharat Biotech is one among them, and there is two more Chinese companies there. They are also in clinical trials. And not surprisingly, this another pox-based this one. It includes the vaccine used for smallpox, or in further better this one, MLV, a modified vaccine Ankara, that based ones, and one more vaccine. Interesting, this one is based upon the horsepox virus. So this one also we will discuss, especially these adenoviruses and pox viruses, people why they are using. That part also we will discuss. And another interesting thing is there are a few companies who are using measles vaccine as the vector. Measles already, there is a very safe vaccine available with almost 90-95% of the efficacy for measles. So this is one of the target. Compared to measles virus is also a RNA virus. It is an enveloped virus. If you can put your gene of interest into this one, and it can be expressed on the measles virus as well as in the cells, cell membrane also. So there is another vaccine candidate based upon the influenza vaccines. Similar to what I talked about measles, influenza also is an RNA virus. It is a enveloped virus, and it can accommodate part of some parts of these new genes and all. So basically, this pox virus, measles virus, and influenza virus, they are I can put them into a single this one, where a replicating virus will be used to express the protein in the cells, and we have safe vaccine candidates for this. Whereas in case of adenovirus, most of them are replication defective viruses, which cannot replicate in the human, but they can produce the protein. Whereas in case of measles and influenza, the protein is outside the virus, and that itself will act as a vaccine. And further, the protein is expressed in the cells also. Whereas in case of adeno, it is not the case. This is not expressed in the, it is not part of adenovirus. It will be expressed in the adenovirus infected cells. Then there are peptide vaccines. Not many people ventured into this one. I thought most of the people will venture into the peptide vaccines, but that didn't happen. But most of the people ventured into subunit vaccines. Then there is another vaccine, vesicular stomatitis virus vaccine. If you remember the last Ebola virus outbreak, the one vaccine which worked very well is based upon this vesicular stomatitis virus vaccine, and it is basically a animal virus infecting cattle and all, and it can infect most of the cells. So this is one of the good candidates, and it has a proven background of it worked in case of, at least in case of Ebola. Then this is another interesting part, codon de-optimized vaccines. It is basically you take your coronavirus, and whenever we are expressing some protein in cells, say in human cells or in yeast or in E. coli, generally what we do, we optimize the codons. That means each amino acid is coded by a few different codons, ranging from 1 to 6 codons. Not that all animals or plants, they will use all the codons on similar level. Some plants, some animals they use, or some cells they use one particular codon more than the other codons. That too, there are other things involved, like two nucleotides next to each other. Some codons are not good for the expression of the proteins, some are good for the expression of proteins. So this, what they are trying to do is, they are trying to de-optimize the codon, this one, for humans. That means this virus cannot produce itself, replicate properly, or produce its proteins in the cells. So the replication is de-optimized. That means you may get an attenuated virus. So basically, a codon de-optimized virus is an attenuated virus which cannot replicate as a wild type virus, so that can be used as a vaccine. So if you take some of the vaccines like measles, that is an attenuated vaccine, naturally attenuated vaccine, or attenuated by passaging in some other cell lines and all. So naturally they are little bit de-optimized. So they became attenuated. That is the same technology or the same concept 2-3 companies are taking, and they are trying to de-optimize this codon so that an attenuated strain can be developed. Yeah, we need to look at this this one. If this works very well, this is one of the technology I am looking at, may come up later with for other vaccines also. And another interesting, this one is one company at least is working on Newcastle disease virus. Basically, it is a poultry virus. A safe vaccine is available, live vaccine is available. And this virus can accommodate some of the foreign genes. So people are trying to use this one, and I will talk about this later. And definitely there are some advantages with this virus. And we'll move to next. Yeah. Here, sorry, I think. Okay, here I am limiting this one to the vaccines being developed by different companies in India. So basically, the first vaccine that is already in phase 1 and 2, a combined phase of clinical phase of 1 and 2, that came from Bharat Biotech. 2 days back, they announced the clinical trials, and it is basically a regular vaccine, a traditional way of working on this one. This is a vaccine I am also involved. Here we need to grow the virus in one of the cell lines. We are using Vero cell lines, and inactivate with a chemical like BPL. And BPL inactivated vaccine is now, that is what people use for. This is the similar technology which Bharat Biotech has, different types of vaccines like Japanese encephalitis, chikungunya, Zika. For most of the pandemics, even for influenza, whenever we worked on this, our first preference is inactivated. But with the COVID, we were a bit worried because of the biosafety issues. So what are the precautions we need to take that people working on this large scale vaccine production, they should not get infected and all. But fortunately, what happened is, uh, 2 years back, we entered into development of vaccines for IPV, means polio virus, inactivated polio virus. The inactivated polio virus is also a BSL-3 virus. So to develop that one, we created a facility, BSL-3 facility, that is the only facility available in human vaccines in India. BSL-3 facility for human vaccines is only available with Bharat Biotech. So immediately we thought, okay, probably we can use this facility for developing this vaccine, and the facility is now converted for the COVID-19, and that's where they started. And we are lucky that the facility just ready in the month of January, February only. So luckily it is ready, and we just started using this one. And by the time we got the virus and other things, it is May 1st we got the virus. Within 2 months, the clinical trials are announced, and because of it is already happened because of the team that is available with Bharat, who they are the heroes actually. They went in, they worked in the BSL-3 facilities with all the PPEs and other things, worked day and night, and make it possible. So that is in the phase 1 to clinical trials, and we are hoping all our preclinical data indicates that we are getting a very good antibody titers, neutralizing antibody titers. We hope it will come into the market soon. And the next vaccine people are, I already discussed about this codon de-optimized. Two of the institutions, Indian companies, they jumped with this one. Serum Institute in collaboration with the Codagenics, and Indian Immunologicals in collaboration with the Griffith University of Australia. Later, there is no much information about this. We hope that it is under preclinical trials still, or development stage. And next thing, people, the widely talked vaccine is this adeno-vector-based vaccines or viral vector-based vaccines. One is based upon the chimp adenovirus. This is developed by Oxford University, UK. Serum Institute is collaborating with them, and they are in phase 3 clinical trials, not in India, outside India. And it is one of the most in the stage of most advanced stage of clinical trials. That is the final clinical trials, phase 3. The important thing with this one, we will discuss about that later. But it is in the phase 3 clinical trial, and this is one of the most promising candidate what we are seeing. And there is another, this one, human adenovirus 5 based vaccine. Bharat Biotech is working on that, and it is in-house developed vaccine. It is under now with preclinical animal studies are going on, and today morning I had data. Data looks good, and we are hopeful about this vaccine also. And there is another vaccine we are developing is based upon the influenza vaccine. This is a replication defective influenza virus developed by University of Wisconsin. And the major advantage what we see with these two vaccines, human adenovirus and influenza, these vaccines can be given intranasally. So we are already in the advanced stage with inactivated vaccine. This requires intramuscular injections or subcutaneous injections, whereas human adenovirus and influenza vaccines can be given by intranasal route or maybe oral. So we are also, so that is the reason we are also working, especially vaccination will be easier, and probably we may, because they are live vaccines, we may be able to produce more doses that are required for this pandemic situation. And already I discussed about vesicular stomatitis vaccine, virus vaccine. And Aurobindo, recently they entered into vaccines, Aurobindo Pharma. They announced that RO vaccine, this one is RO vaccines. They recently announced that in collaboration with Profectus, they are working on vesicular stomatitis vaccine, and we need to see where it is and know further details about that vaccine. Then today, I have seen in the paper, in the news and all, Jadis Cadila also they came with their vaccine for phase 1 and 2 clinical trials. Today they announced it. Just now I changed my slide. It was in preclinical area, and now I changed it to phase 1 2. And it is measles based. Measles vaccine already we know a attenuated vaccine is available. That I am looking at as a good platform. But only doubt I have is most of us are measles. Most of us are vaccinated by measles vaccine, so that we'll be having pre-existing immunity. So this pre-existing immunity means already we have antibodies against measles. And how good this vaccine can work? It can replicate in the vaccinated people. That is one thing we need to see. This pre-existing immunity issue will be there with human adenoviruses, adeno 5 also. Whereas chimp adeno, it may not be an issue, because chimpanzee adenovirus antibodies we may not have, whereas human adenovirus antibodies will have. Similar thing can happen with measles also. Whereas let us see, I am also hopeful, but because in adults and all, this can work, but we need to see. We need to see how this will. Let us see in a month or two. We have the data about this one. And the next vaccine, again, Bharat Biotech, they are working on a rabies-based platform with Thomas Jefferson University. It is basically an attenuated rabies virus in which we can incorporate the S gene or the spike protein of coronavirus. This already we are started producing in large scale. It is under preclinical trials, and this is one thing we are hoping to increase the number of doses. This is one platform we have selected, and it will be given as an inactivated vaccine, similar to any other rabies vaccine. Already we know the rabies vaccine is a very safe vaccine to give, and not more than 1% people will have antibodies against this rabies, because not many people are exposed to rabies. So we are thinking this can be a vaccine where if we have a problem with say pre-existing immunity for human adeno or influenza, this is one platform can go further. That's what we are thinking. Next vaccine, there are protein subunit vaccines announced by Biological E. They are using receptor domain of S protein, probably in yeast, but we are not sure. And there is another company who announced a spike protein based subunit vaccine, Minvax. They are also new for this anything, but we do not have much information about this. Hopefully, they are under preclinical trials. another vaccine developed by being developed by Genova. They perform based upon the RNA, and it is similar to Moderna vaccine, who are also looking at RNA-based vaccines, and if it works, it will be a game changer. Let us hope how it goes and all, and we will go to one by one, a little bit detailed. The first one we will be discussing will be inactivated vaccines. The biggest advantage with inactivated vaccines is the technology is known. The inactivants are known. How long it will take and all, it is known, and there is already data available for SARS coronavirus. A similar thing can be replicated here, and the major and the facility infrastructures are available for with some companies, easy to kickstart. That is the major reason for us to move to this particular vaccine. But the biggest disadvantage is biosafety and handling. We are producing in large scale, in hundreds of liters of this virus, and it is very scary. If something happens, if it is released out, what to do and all. But fortunately, we have a BSL-3 vaccine production facility where we can handle all this vaccine virus, and almost on weekly basis, all our people are being tested by RT-PCR, in-house developed RT-PCR testing, and fortunately, our systems are perfect, and there is no incident up to now, and we are sure that nothing can happen in future also, because we have the very foolproof system. So, but this is one reason other companies are not venturing into this one, because none of these Indian companies are having BSL-3 facilities for human vaccines. Yes, there are 3 companies who are having BSL-3 facilities for vaccine production, but they are all in veterinary vaccine. This one, the veterinary vaccine companies who are having these BSL-3 facilities are BioVet, Indian Immunologicals, and Brilliant Biopharma, which is both are Indian Immunologicals and Brilliant are both are located in Hyderabad. But they didn't venture into this one because they are mostly in veterinary vaccines. And next we will move to adeno-based this one, which chimp adenovirus, which Serum Institute is hoping, and this is in collaboration with Oxford University. Here what they did is, this is where the chimpanzee adenovirus, this is the protein, the pentone protein, which is actually modified into the human adenovirus is modified into this the expression of this particular protein is it is modified to chimp adeno, so that there is no pre-existing immunity this particular virus. So then they incorporated the SARS coronavirus spike protein into this one. So this virus, which is basically can infect chimpanzees, not humans, or humans may not have the pre-existing immunity or antibodies against this virus, can be used as a vaccine candidate. This virus can infect the humans, but it can infect only for one cycle. It cannot spread from one human being to other, or in truly speaking, it cannot spread from one cell to other cell also. So safety-wise, there is no issue. The other issues of pre-existing immunity is also not there with this particular virus, and it is supported by Gates Foundation and PATH and all big this one. So this vaccine is going forward in a very fast manner, and it is already in phase 3 clinical trials. And Serum Institute is working with them. And the biggest advantage with this vaccine is because of the support from the Gates Foundation and CEPI, they supported all the money for this vaccine development, and they are very they are hopeful or they are very confident about this candidate because same candidate worked for earlier for the SARS coronavirus one also. So what they are thinking is they already started producing the vaccine. Without waiting for the clinical trials, they already started producing the vaccine. So by the time clinical trials are over, you will have millions of doses of vaccine available at different places. And several companies are recruited into this program. And Serum Institute is one of them. There are tens of institutions, tens of companies who already started producing this vaccine. And the moment phase 3 clinical trials are over, the results are out, the vaccine can be uh, uh, given to the market and immediately vaccination can be started. That is the biggest advantage with this vaccine. And I am hoping that this vaccine will save millions of people. And the next, this one already what we discussed about other replication incompetent viral vaccines. Now you see this vaccine, infectious virus can enter into the cell and produce its proteins and RNA or DNA, and the virus will be released out. And this is, but what happens here is this particular thing, it can be produced only in a particular cell line, which can complement this virus. This virus is having a defective genome. That means a particular piece of the genome is missing in this virus, but that is complemented by the particular cell line. These cell lines are called complementing cell lines or producer cells. So a virus will come out along with the spike protein of the spike protein gene of our interest. So this virus, when it is infecting the normal cell, say a vaccinated person's cells, what happens is this virus can enter, produce all the proteins, including the spike glycoprotein, but the virus cannot come out because it is defective in a particular genome, particular gene. So it is replication incompetent or replication defective or replication deficient. They cannot replicate, so they are safe. So what we have is in this category we have Coroflu. Coroflu is the vaccine announced by Bharat Biotech in combination, in collaboration with University of Wisconsin. They already have a vaccine for flu, influenza vaccine. This vaccine can replicate only once in the human being, and this can be given intranasally also. So that is the biggest advantage. Vaccination is easy, and the vaccine production technology is already known. It is known technology, and it can be scaled up easily. And this already they have tried in different things, and now they are in preclinical trials. We are testing this vaccine in US in animals and all, and if it works out well, it can be given intranasally. So that is the biggest advantage, and we already have the platform to produce this vaccine in large scale. So we are hopeful about this vaccine. We are yet to receive this strain here, but preclinical trials are happening in US. And already we discussed about this one, vesicular stomatitis virus-based vaccine. This is what your, it is a rhabdovirus. It is a sister of rabies virus. It is very much related to, they both of them belongs to the same family, rabies virus and vesicular stomatitis virus. And instead of the glycoprotein of this virus, we can incorporate any other glycoprotein, any other virus glycoprotein. This is where people used the glycoprotein of Ebola. Ebola glycoprotein they incorporated here, and it worked well, very well, and it is one of the successful vaccine for Ebola. And hopefully, similarly, they used it for the MERS coronavirus. That is also worked this one, and Lassa virus also they used. And now they are proposing it for the COVID vaccine. And let similar platform actually RO vaccines. Aurobindo also is proposing, and let us see what will happen to this one. And I am hopeful this vaccine also can work, because the amount of glycoprotein that is being expressed outside is huge, and there is no pre-existing immunity, because it is basically an animal vaccine, animal virus. So no pre-existing immunity. Only hitch I am seeing here is this animal virus is not there, not present in India. So what will be the this one from the Ministry of Animal Husbandry? Whether they allow an animal virus which is not present in India to be used as a live vaccine in India is a question I have. But in a pandemic situation like this, we need not really worry about that, and hopefully it will come to phase clinical trials, and uh, it will be released into market. Let us see. And this is an interesting concept, RNA vaccines. Up to now, there is no single RNA vaccine available in the market. So the major problem is, if you inject RNA into a human being, into a muscle cell, it can enter into the cell and its proteins can be produced. But the major the transfer, or the way, how to put this RNA into the cell is a biggest issue. So people are trying to use nanoparticles, especially liposomes and all, to encapsulate this RNA into these liposomes, so that they can be engulfed into the cells where this protein can be expressed, and the protein immune response can be developed. This is completely new technology. In that also, there are two technologies available, two technologies people are trying. One is a simple RNA, which cannot replicate, non-replicating this one. Whereas there is another thing. Hello. Is there any problem? Hello.
No, sir. No, sir.
No problem. Okay, fine. Okay, there is another this one, replicating RNA. Say alpha virus RNA, if you take it, there is a replicase enzyme available. So this RNA can enter into this one and replicate also. That means small amount of RNA can, if you can make it enter into the cells, it can replicate and it can produce large quantity of proteins and all. Compared to this particular NRM, this one, these are better vaccine candidates. And let us see how. The important thing here is the vehicle what they are going to use, how efficient this vehicle is to deliver this RNA into the cells. The technology, Moderna and other people, they are not revealing the technology yet. Let us see how it goes. If this works, this RNA vaccines works, it is going to change whole vaccine field, especially for viral vaccine field. It is going to change whole this one, and probably the big companies need to close their vaccine production units and move to this RNA this one. And let us see how it goes. And next thing is DNA vaccines. We are hearing about these DNA vaccines since decades. Maybe first time we started working on the DNA vaccines probably in 90s, early 90s. But none of the vaccines came into this one. And similar to RNA vaccines, how we are going to deliver the DNA into the target cells. That is the major issue. And people are using liposomes and other things. There are DNA guns and other things, but not at means the technology which is scalable is not at ready, or probably COVID is a catalyst for this one. Maybe there are new technologies people are going to try, and this is one technology post-COVID. What I am thinking is post-COVID, either DNA vaccines will be completely out of this one, or there will be several companies which are jumping into DNA vaccines. If one or two vaccines of COVID works, DNA vaccines work, it will be again a game changer. So the important thing now is, now we discussed about different types of vaccines that are coming up, and how long it is going to take. Are we going to get a vaccine within short period? So let us see, generally for a vaccine, for normal regulatory pathway. That means if I have an idea today, in 2020 January, I have an idea to develop a vaccine. Generally, how long it will take to put it into the market? Just see, if I start in 2020, maybe my vaccine will be out for the market in 2036. That means minimum of 10 to 15 years. That's what is generally for any vaccine to come into the market. So in pandemics, if I am looking at this type of timelines, there is no point. There is no point by the time the pandemic will be over. So where we can reduce, that's where most of the companies are working on. Look at this. The building of the facilities. This is where what is going to take most of the time. Okay. So what they are doing is, they are looking for the vaccine candidates which can be which can use in the existing available facilities. So this part is gone, and academic research is also not there. Most of the times, what already wherever there are leads available, simply people are moving to that and immediately kickstarting the preclinical this one. And even preclinical, if you see, in general, it takes 2.5 years, but that is not what we are looking at. And phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials also is going to take long time. And another thing is manufacturing. Already we discussed about chikungunya of Oxford University. Before clinical trials, before all these preclinical trials and clinical trials, they started manufacturing here. So that is how they are going. And let us see what happened to different vaccines earlier. Varicella vaccine 28 years, Flumis 28 years, papillomavirus 15 years, Rota 15 years, and people are trying to do in 18 months. For me, 18 months is also long period. For me, it should come within 6 months. So what we are trying to do? Almost no academic research, and preclinicals are limited to 1.5 months, and phase 1, 2 are combined. And building facilities are not there. Already existing buildings they are trying to do. And before going for phase 1 clinical trials, people started manufacturing, so that it can be reduced. Not August 21st. Today the announcement is by August 2020, by August 15th, by Independence Day, we want to announce this vaccine. But whether we can announce it or not, we are not sure. But that is the target, that is the goal we have. So by doing that, are we compromising the safety? We are not compromising on the safety. I'm not seeing that as we are compromising on safety. Say it is an emergency vaccine. Yes, it will not be fully characterized. That means what happens, means what is my stability? The major problem is why it takes longer time is manufacturing the stability data. Generally, if you see in any vaccine, the shelf life or the expiry period is 2 years. That means I need to manufacture the vaccine, keep it for 2 years or 3 years, truly speaking, and show that for 3 years, whatever the vaccine I produced is means the efficiency is sufficient even after 2 years or 3 years of the vaccine manufacture. That means I need to wait for 3 years. Here we are not going to do this. This is an emergency vaccine. The day I manufacture, the day it goes to hospital, it will be used up. So I need not wait for 3 months. I need not wait for 3 years. I can have a vaccine which is stable for only 3 to 6 months. That is enough now. So that is where we reduce the time. It is not, we are not compromising on the safety. We are reducing the stability period. That will be going on, but we are claiming only this vaccine is stable for 3 months or 6 months or something like that, so that it is going and all. And the adverse events and all are, the clinical trials are done, and adverse events and all are looked at that. And these adverse reactions are there with any vaccine. But the adverse reaction, say, in case of polio, the polio drops what we use, there are chances that 1 in 1 million kids who are receiving the virus may get polio because of the vaccine. That means there is an adverse reaction. 1 in 1 lakh or 1 in 1 million people, instead of protecting the kid, this vaccine virus is causing disease in them. That is the risk we have. So what is the benefit? Because of that risk, shall I stop vaccinating the kids with polio? If I am not vaccinating the people, 3 out of every 100 kids will get poliomyelitis. So now you see the risk-benefit analysis. So for any adverse reaction, we need to look at the risk-benefit analysis and see whether whether to go for vaccination or not to go for a vaccination. So this risk-benefit analysis we will be doing immediately after safety data comes out. Based upon the safety data and based upon the risk-benefit analysis, we can go for vaccination without compromising on the safety. And for that, WHO also has done some, they announced some path how to go and all. What is preferred, what is minimum, critical and minimum. See, a vaccine which can be used for all ages, pregnant, lactating people, that is the preferred vaccine. But I cannot test all these vaccines whether it is safe in pregnant or not. I may not be able to do in limited period. It may take some more time. But if it can work in elderly, if it is safe in elderly, that is enough, because elderly people are the most affected people now. If we can save them, or the healthy adults and elderly, if I can target only these people, that is, the vaccine can go to the field. And in the meantime, people can be working on the in pregnant people, in lactating and other things. That can be done in the phased manner. But initially, we can go for the adults and elderly. That is one thing. That is what WHO is also thinking about. And mild transient adverse events. Mild transient adverse events means when a vaccination is given, people may get fever or pain at the site or all those things. But even if I miss mild fever, that's all what is accepted. But even if you get a little bit more this one, the benefits, this is what I am talking about, cost benefit analysis. If the benefits are more than the risk, yes, we can go ahead with this one. And efficacy. If the vaccine efficacy, say, I would like to have a vaccine which is efficacy, the efficacy is 90% or more than that. That is my wish. But with this vaccine, if 70% efficacy is there, that means out of 100 people, 70 people can be protected. Out of 100 vaccinated people, if 70 can be protected, we can go ahead. And even WHO is talking about even 50% people can be protected. You can go ahead. That means this one is lowered, but it is not we are not lowering the safety or this one, but the risk analysis, how we can go ahead in a faster manner. And single dose is preferred, but most probably most of the vaccines, we may go for double dose now. 2 doses are required because we want to get the people immunized and get the antibodies in faster manner. So even the Bharat Biotech's Covaxin is 2 dose regimen. Even and one single dose also we are trying, but 2 dose, this one is even if we need to go for 2 dose, we need to go for that. There is no other option we have. And route of administration generally a non-parental. Say already I am talking about intranasal, oral, or something like that. If that comes, nothing like that. We don't need to have people, I mean, train people for vaccination. You can vaccinate people, millions of the people in shorter periods, similar to what we did for oral polio vaccines. But intramuscular or any other route is acceptable if it if it gives a good efficacy and with less safety means issues and all. And where the other thing is storage. I am not thinking that higher storage temperatures are possible, but especially with DNA and RNA vaccines, this is possible, but not with other vaccines. Probably we need to live with 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. And multi-dose vial presentations are possible. Monodose we need not go, multi-dose presentations are possible. And the most important thing is how rapidly we can scale it up. All these vaccines, how rapidly we can scale it up. Only those vaccines can be used for large scale vaccinations. And other issues what I am looking at is the important thing is manufacturing facility. Already we discussed about manufacturing facilities, something like a BSL-3 facility for inactivated vaccines that is not available for many places, so that you can expect these inactivated vaccines in small scale only will be available. And scale up. We are developing different technologies now. Bharat Biotech is, they developed their in-house scale up technologies, something like fixed bed bioreactors and all. Up to now, vaccines are produced in small flask like thing, and they are not sufficient. Now they are going for they have already ordered several fermenters of thousands of liters capacities, and the scale up is going to be an issue, and how to do the large scale production and all. And another important thing is large scale vaccination, whether to go with intramuscular route or something like intranasal or oral comes, that will be a really big boon for vaccination programs. And now several approaches are being developed, they're being tested, and at the end of this COVID, probably different delivery mechanisms are being tested first time, and different vaccine technologies are tested now, something like RNA vaccines and measles based vaccines and other things. So some technologies may get established, they may change the whole vaccine technology, manufacturing technology, or some may perish. And this will be the whole COVID vaccine development is a game changer for most of the vaccine manufacturers. And let us see, we are hoping that we are expecting that there will be a lot of changes post-COVID in whole vaccine manufacturing technologies. Some companies may close, some companies may come up as a big man, this one. Let us see what happens and all. And with this, I want to say, I want to salute those people who are working with all these vaccines, especially people who are handling this virus in large scale at the risk of their life and risk of their families. They are the heroes. We are outside and we are just giving the policy or how to go ahead and all. We are not this one. The heroes are who are working with the really large scale. Hundreds of liters of virus is being handled, and with the risk with a lot of risk of their life and all. And they are the heroes. I salute them. Apart from the heroes, like already we are talking about healthcare workers, police, and all the sanitary workers. The risk involved in the vaccine production, the people who are working with this virus, the risk is many folds, because they are working with the virus in hundreds of liters, not that you are touching some place and other things and all. So the risk is very high. I salute those people and thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the